Hello there and welcome to the last episode of the Irish Film London podcast 2022. We've had some incredible film releases this year and we were lucky enough to get to speak to a lot of the creators behind these wonderful films that made us belly laugh and ugly cry. I also just want to say a quick congratulations to all the filmmakers and people who made shorts, features, documentaries. The world has been a bit of a scary and uncertain place for the last while, and you went out there and you created work for yourselves, for your crews and for us, showing us your wonderful talents and skills, and we're very, very grateful for that, because without you guys, myself and Gerry would just be sitting here talking shite, and who wants to listen to that? Am I right, Gerry?
Well, I mean, that's the only reason why I do come here, is to listen to us talk shite, so...
Okay, well, I don't. So we started off the year, we were kind of doing a bit of a look back, which is always really, really fun to do. And we started off the year with the Damien Dempsey documentary called Love Yourself Today.
We did indeed, Niamh, and then you caught up with both Damo himself and the film's director, Ross Killeen. So let's listen back to a clip from that interview now.
Going back to the very first meeting with Damo, just that the film is something that helps people, you know. Like, I love the idea of the film being very similar to the concert, in that you go in, you know, you go down, but then you get brought back up again, you know. You said it there, it's got it like the grief, the sadness, but then you have to go down there to get the lift at the end, you know. And I just want people to feel good after they've seen it, you know, and that's kind of typically been the response. Like, you know, most people who see it are just feel really good after they walk out, you know, and they feel good about the 80 minutes they've spent watching the film, you know. They've kind of thought about their own situations and whatnot, and but ultimately they have a good feeling walking out of the cinema, you know, and that's brilliant, you know. That's like to make a film that makes people feel good is a lovely thing, and I'm very proud of that, you know.
Damien?
I suppose a bit of hope, yeah. Like everyone goes through trauma, some sort of trauma of their own, you know, doesn't matter where they're from. But there's always hope, and there's always healing out there, and every day is a new start. And I suppose there's lots of wisdom, I think, imparted by the people, you know. Mm-hmm. Our three heroes there. Lots of wisdom for people who are going through a hard time in life, or, you know, might see no light at the end of the tunnel, I suppose, you know. Mm-hmm. And it's just the power of music, and, you know, that hopefully people get along to other gigs and sing. Singing is very important, you know. You should always sing. The power of music is supposed to heal, you know, and help people. And community, it's a great movie about community, people getting together, you know.
Yeah.
You know, to hear music and sing along, and that's important.
We've had some massive releases all through the year. We've had films that started off at Sundance in January. That's a film like Nothing Compares, which has just went from strength to strength.
You know, showing the film now, you know, it launched obviously at Sundance in January. It's just the amount of like young, flashing-eyed teenagers I've got coming up at the end of the screenings who are just completely bewildered, saying like, what? How did we not know this? Because the rhetoric around her has been so reductive, and they even were saying like, oh, we just thought she was bad, or she'd done something bad, we didn't really know what it was, you know, and that was what they knew of her. And then when they see it, they're stunned and, yeah, as you said, furious but galvanized. It seems to have accidentally become a bit of a call to action, particularly in America, you know, with so much is happening there. Obviously the horrors that's happening over there, you know, for women at the minute. You know, I just think it's amazing how inspired people seem to be.
We had award-winning films all the way through the year. Young Plato has done the rounds quite a bit. $1 Million Pigeons came out in the autumn. We've had How to Tell a Secret and North Circular out in November this year, and loads more besides that.
And North Circular is just going strength to strength. I know you guys did way more kind of screenings even after our festival in November, and are planning to do more, so that's always exciting.
Yeah, it's a film that I think really resonates with people, definitely, and it's lovely to see a film about a specific place that really resonates with people, whether they're from that place or they have a recognition of it, or whether it's the music in it or something else. I don't know, but it's doing so well, and it's really lovely to see. So just before Irish Film Festival London in November, I caught up with North Circular's director Luke McManus. Here's a little bit of the chat we had about what North Circular means to him.
But I was showing it to a very interesting fella called Kieran Aguera, who's been around a lot. He's a designer and he's kind of a brand consultant of all things. But I was just showing him the film and he goes, it's about community.
Yeah.
And I sort of pushed back against that because it's just such a word that's overused. But then I realised his insight was absolutely correct, because the one thing that ties everything together is the power of joining and of being with others, and how that can help you overcome injustice and trauma and all of those things, and how toxic loneliness can be. You know, you think of the guy in the squat who died, you know, he was isolated. You have Sean Atuma, who's had huge trauma and challenges in his life, but he's out chatting to people on the street with his tin whistle and cracking a few jokes, and that's where he gets meaning from, and that's where he gets validation and comfort. And you know, so, and you think of Bose, you think of Kelly Harrington, you think of the people playing music together, like the marching on the street. All of these things are these moments of public joy and of coming together.
And then it's also been a really amazing year for Irish language films. So we had On Colleen Kuhn, we had Roche August Frank, and we also had Binion as well, which was earlier on in the year. But particularly On Colleen Kuhn has just gone, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's like the dream. It's just such a beautiful film, and one I think as a nation we're all really, really proud of.
Proud is probably an understatement, yeah. But yes, we covered On Colleen Kuhn a few times across the year, and in particular I felt lucky to get to chat to the film's cinematographer Kate McCullough about the process of shooting On Colleen Kuhn and working with the whole creative team on the film back in a conversation we had in the summer. Here's Kate.
You know, I was thinking afterwards that it was almost like we had sort of made a whole body of films already together. Like,
okay,
you know, there just was this kind of understanding and sort of appreciation of films that, yeah, it just seemed to be easy to communicate with them, and to develop ideas and sort of work things through. And like, even when we did sort of a test day as well, and Catherine McInnes, and she was just so ready for the camera, like she was, you know, she just sort of like I'm ready for whatever it is like is going to happen with this film. We ended up, like, I think using one of the shots from the test day, you know, because it was just already kind of working.
Wow. Which shot is that?
Oh no.
Yeah, it's just been a film that's smashed a lot of glass ceilings, I think. You know, it's done more than €1 million at the Irish box office. It's done more than €1 million in the UK box office, I think, UK and Irish combined. It's the first Irish language film to ever reach that level of popularity, I guess, or, you know, commercial success. It's also picked up numerous awards. Its journey isn't even finished yet, because it's Ireland's selection for the Oscar foreign language category this year, or I think it's now called Best International Feature competition. So we could be revisiting that in the new year as another title which is still representing Ireland internationally.
Exactly, fingers crossed. We're all behind them, but we adore it no matter what. And also as well, a personal favourite genre of mine is the horror and thriller genre. We had You Are Not My Mother, we had Here Before by Stacey Gregg, we had The Cellar, and then only really recently has been the release of Lorcan Finnegan's Nocebo. And You're Not My Mother and Here Before and The Cellar and all the other films that we've mentioned, quite a lot of them we've had interviews with throughout the year. So if you've seen them and you haven't got a chance to listen to any of the podcasts, definitely go back and have a listen, especially after you've seen a film. I always kind of find, one, it's good to listen before to kind of spark your interest in it, but then it's always nice to kind of listen to them after to hear about any of, you know, the trials and tribulations that they had to go throughout making the film and all that kind of stuff.
But I think, you know, people in filmmaking, like, you know, filmmakers and people who work in film are really pragmatic and are very good at problem solving and are very creative. So I think, you know, it was a little bit unsettling to make your first film in that kind of space, but I think, you know, everyone just gets on with it and gets used to it, and then you kind of are being tested twice a week, and then you just go and you do the things. And It was funny, there was only kind of one big scene with a lot of extras that I was really worried about, which was the Halloween night where she's walking in the street, and I was like, we had a production meeting about it, and I was like, look, if we get on set and it's like 10 people, I don't know what I'm gonna do with that. Like, how's that gonna work? And they so the second AD, he was a real hero of the day. He basically went to the neighborhood we were going to film in, dropped leaflets into all the families on that street, and basically being like, did your kids miss Halloween? Well, we're doing a fake Halloween for this movie, do you want to come? And then literally we turned up that day and there was about 150 kids in full Halloween costume, like no met, like they went all out. They were obviously like getting ready all day, and I was like, this is great. But then like the producer was like really stressed because she was like, I hope they don't, like, nobody calls the guards, thanks for having like a huge celebration or something.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of stressful, but no, it's brilliant.
And you know what I would add to that about those interviews as well is that, like, I find this more than in any other format, but in a podcast interview you can, because you spend so much time talking to somebody, like a podcast interview is generally quite long form in terms of the amount of time that you as an interviewer, Niamh, will spend talking to somebody about their film and their work and everything, and you get to such a fine level of detail. You get to reveal so much about their processes and where the film comes from, and you learn a lot about it. I find it really rewarding listening back to our episodes. So yeah, I encourage everyone to be rewarded in the way that I am by listening to our episodes. Please listen to our episodes.
I know exactly what you mean, and a kind of a bit of a funny one for me. I was listening back to some of them today, and I mean, I'm super proud of all of them, because I just think they're just such amazing people to have taken the time to come out and talk to us about what they've made. But one interview that I kind of came away from going, I'm really chuffed with that one, or I really enjoyed it, or I kind of got, you know, something out of it, was the Here Before chat with Stacey Gregg. I just really enjoyed that one.
Stacey Gregg's chat is actually a really good example of that. Yeah,
my way of working is, like I say, what's really paramount to me always is that I believe them. I need to see a performance that I believe, and in order to get that, a lot of the time you have to create the space, even when you're like against it with time, you know, and whatever other logistics you know are sort of screaming around you. Your job is to create the space and provide whatever emotional information is needed for the performer to find their way there. So one way of doing that, especially with the younger performers, was I would usually run the scene a few times by the book, sort of what we had on script, and then start to like let it breathe a little bit. And that way we caught lots of gorgeous stuff, a lot of completely improvised stuff that made its way into the film and gives it that real nice texture. And you know, I think that the team, Chloe Thompson, my DP as well, was very sort of, you know, alert and open to finding things as we went along, and it just meant that you're sort of making the most of the time that you've got.
But I'm trying to think as well of a standout film for me personally throughout the year. Yeah. And one that kind of pops into mind for me was Swan Song, which was directed by Benjamin Cleary. And we also had the producer Rebecca Burke on a podcast as well. And that for me was just, it didn't have a cinema release. It was came out on, I think it was Apple TV, and that for me was just kind of next level of, you know, production and storytelling, and that was a really, really strong film, I thought.
Speaking about the script, speaking about life though, connections to it, like all those kind of things, I just knew I was sitting across from someone really, really special. Like how he was speaking about the character and just about everything, I was just getting more and more energized. And so that was the start of the casting process. Getting at the end of the meeting, Mahershala said, I want to do the movie. There was no like stuff after or whatever. He just went, let's do this. And so that was kind of just incredible. And then from then on, when you're lucky enough to get someone like Mahershala to sign up to the movie, it changes the entire casting process, because every actor wants to work with Mahershala, you know? So you're able to get the script into the hands of people you just wouldn't have had a chance to. So after that, it was quite, I wouldn't say easy, like casting is tricky and there was loads of roles and all that kind of stuff, but it was certainly made a lot easier by his involvement. And Mahershala was producer as well, which was really helpful for us. And it went from there, you know, like Naomi, Mahershala helped to get it to her. I had an amazing conversation with her and she signed up. And then that was the center of the whole film, because it really is all about that central relationship. And then we went from there. I think Vicky Thomas, our brilliant casting director, our very first meeting, she was like, what about Awkwafina for Kate? And I was like, wow, that's a really interesting choice, because I'd seen her in The Farewell, which I thought was a masterpiece, and I thought she was phenomenal in that. So I was really interested in Awkwafina for that. And then Glenn, again, it was one of those, like, to get Glenn Close in the film, it was one of those things where I just was like, there's no way we could get her in. But again, I think Mahershala and I think having Naomi on at that point too was really helpful. And then we had just a really great Zoom, and she had brilliant ideas for the character and how to flesh out the character a bit more, and it really made the script a lot stronger. So I did a rewrite, got it back to Glenn, and she signed on, and that was it really. It was kind of a dream process for your first film to sort of have as hassle-free a casting process as that, but it really did center around Mahershala and the fact that, you know, at the end of the day, this is really, he's in every single film, sometimes as himself, playing both roles. So that was the casting process.
Do you know the film experience that stands out for me most this year? I mean, I've got to see so many brilliant films this year as part of programming for Irish Film Festival London and all the other bits and bobs that we do through the year. But the experience that keeps coming back to me as being the most mind-blowing is actually watching Here Before by Stacey Gregg for the first time, and seeing Andrea Riseborough and seeing the young actress in that who plays the daughter, and the whole ensemble cast in that is brilliant. It just blew me away. As a thriller, that I really love thrillers anyway, but as a thriller that uses this sort of the specificity of this community in Northern Ireland, and, you know, Andrea Riseborough's accent is incredible in it. She really nails it. They've got the place down to a T. They've managed to capture the spookiness of this sort of semi-rural place in Northern Ireland. There's like a small housing development that's sat on the top of a hill that looks down over everything else but feels really removed, almost like a ghost house. You know, there's just lots and lots and lots to love in it.
It was so atmospheric, and the storytelling of it I think was just incredibly strong. So I'm looking forward to more from Stacey Gregg, which we will have in the new year. I got a confirmation that we're definitely going to have an interview at some point in the new year with her new film Ballywater, so that's very exciting.
Brilliant.
So looking forward to that. But just as you were saying there about the young actor in Here Before, this has just been an amazing year for young actors.
I'm
Irish
so
actors,
glad you mentioned that. Yeah.
Oh my God! Like Catherine Clinch, obviously played Cot on Colin Keown, and Ruan, who was in Roche August Frank. He was there at our awards as well, and what a amazing young man he is. I know he did the Q&A after as well, and it's just, I mean, the industry is in good hands for sure.
It is. All those child actors this year were just incredible. Like, what about Charlie Reid, who played Mully in Joyride?
Joyride. Oh yeah, the best. So good. Another gorgeous film actually from the last year.
So Niamh, alongside all of these film experiences from the last 12 months, what have been some of your standout TV experiences, Irish TV experiences?
Oh yeah, of course. Like, we can't forget about the TV, another kind of big hitter for Irish productions this year. I know we chatted to Alison Oliver about her experience on Conversations with Friends. We had the final season of Dairy Girls. So sad that was the final season, but what a gorgeous one to finish on. I think that flashback episode will just stay with me forever. What else was there? Oh, The Dry, which also stars our patron Mo Dunford. And that's a really great watch. And then of course Bad Sisters with Sharon Horgan and Sarah Green, and just an amazing female-led TV show. So if you haven't watched any of those, they are some binge-worthy TV shows for over the Christmas and New Year, really, I have to say.
I feel like everyone's watching Bad Sisters at the minute. It's really out there.
Have you not watched it?
I haven't seen it yet, no.
Oh, it's good. It's really good. And I'm bringing it back for a second season, which I'm a little bit apprehensive about, because you know the way when something's so good, you kind of don't want it touched. But also I just don't think that Sharon Horgan would ever let that happen. You know what I mean? I feel like she's like, she's the kind of creator that, like, if she's not happy with it, she'd be like, we're not doing it. I'm really interested to see that. So get on that, Bad Sisters, honestly.
I will. That's going to be my holiday binge. Okay,
good.
Okay, this has been a lot of fun. It's been nice to revisit everything we've done on the podcast this year, but it's time for some mince pies now. So from me and from Niamh, happy Christmas, have a very happy new year, and we'll catch you all again in January. And look, if you've made it this far in the podcast or in any of our podcast episodes, please consider dropping a like or a subscribe or a follow or whatever on the podcast, wherever you're listening to it. It really does help, actually. It helps people to discover the podcast on whatever algorithm that you're using. It really contributes, and it lets us know that you're there and that you're listening to, which is often quite difficult to figure out in some ways. But yeah, if you want, you can consider that your little Christmas gift to us this year. Okay, happy holidays, everyone.